Okay, we're live now, and we are.
Ah,
Yep, and we're ready to talk about Black Panther finally.
right. Mostly Infinity War, but I did promise that we would do Black Panther Spoilercast, and we sort of did one, but the audio came out really bad, and so this is take two, just a very brief talking about Black Panther spoilers.
Okay.
And I think I'm gonna let one of you guys open up with this one, just because, like, I don't know, I have to sort of pull back to what I said last time, all the points I really want to hit, so I guess one of you guys should go first.
I'll just briefly say it was a really good movie, and yeah, I just really liked it. And I'll let you two probably have so much more to say about it first. So I'll let you two go first. So, Malik.
Okay, we're back to pronouncing my name wrong.
Yeah, it's close. You
Malik. That's your name.
Malik.
Malik.
Soft A.
There we go.
Wow.
It's fine. I have to say, I really love the movie. It is gone down a few pegs in terms of where I place it in the MCU. I've watched that movie 4 times now in the theater, more than I have any other movie in history. So when I see Infinity War, I'll be sure to see that 5. But yeah, Black Panther, I thought it was very, very good. It was really a revolutionary movie in almost every aspect. You have almost an entirely black cast, a cast of color, and really, really good actors too. Everyone from Michael B. Jordan to Angela Bassett, Forrest Whitaker, and of course Chadwick Boseman and Peter Nyong'o. All of them just really, really heavy hitters, and they all came to play and gave phenomenal performances. I love I love the story. I love the authenticity of the music and the score. I love the action. I love the vibrant colors. I love almost everything about this movie. It really resonated with me. It really spoke to me. I think this is a very culturally significant film. Like, just even out of the superhero realm, I think it's a really culturally significant film, and it's really like dominated the zeitgeist right now. And it's been amazing to see that movie just break record after record after record. And I'm so happy for Ryan Coogler. He's a phenomenal director, and I'm really proud of him and seeing what he did here, bringing this movie to screen. And it just makes me that much more excited for Infinity War to see that that's almost going to serve as essentially a sequel. Well, it is inherently a sequel. All these movies are sequels to each other, but this is almost Infinity War almost plays as a direct sequel to Black Panther, and I think that's really exciting.
Mhm.
So, yeah, all in all, I love the movie. Aside from the kind of dodgy CGI we get in the third act, I really have no issues with this movie. Perfect, phenomenal. And I cannot stress how much I loved Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger. He was a fantastic villain, and I am sad that they killed him, but I understand why. It made sense for that storyline. And yeah, as of right now, he's my favorite villain that we've gotten in the MCU.
Yeah, he's one of the best villains.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna throw it over to you, Nick.
Yeah, you really covered all the important stuff, like, just in terms of the cultural significance of this movie. And yeah, I was thinking about saving that point about Infinity War for when we talked about the marketing in general, but the smartest thing that Disney or the marketing team could have ever done is pretty much like emphasizing the Black Panther like aspect of Infinity War and all the Wakandans, and having Shuri and T'Challa be so much in the forefront, because like, you know that they planned that before like Black Panther was even close to coming out, but they saw that movie. Kevin Feige, I think, was right to call it the best movie they'd ever made in his opinion. It really, I think it speaks to sort of just the astounding amount of confidence that they had in the quality of that movie, and it paid off. That it's like, yeah, let's like more than any other character or setting, I think, in either Infinity War trailer, let's just pretty much pitch it like the light Black Panther sequel, and it's great, and it's really fun to watch unfold. And like all the important, I don't know, like I feel like you got it. With the only problem I have with this movie is the CGI in the third act, and even then, it's not like distractingly bad. It's just kind of like, oh, they really. Yeah, they could have given that another pass at the render, but I don't know, maybe they didn't have enough time. Maybe they just couldn't get the effect to look right. I don't know, but it's a dumb little not important complaint. But outside of that, like the main things that I wanted to reiterate just from the last time we talked about it was, I feel like a sort of consistent problem that people might have, even those who really like this movie or really love it, is T'Challa's character arc. And I mentioned Mark Bernardin from Fat Man on Batman making the specific complaint that T'Challa doesn't want anything, and I think that's a really dumb complaint. And you might be excited to hear, Malik, that I am scripting a video all about T'Challa's arc in the movie for like in between the Spider-Man stuff and what we're doing in between those. So I don't know when that'll be done or when that's coming out, but that is definitely something that I want to talk about in like a scripted way. So that's coming at some point. And outside of that, yeah, I really love Killmonger. I don't think there's a single character in the movie who doesn't work for me.
Yeah, they're all great, especially Sherry. She's my favorite.
Yes, great. She's the best. But I don't know. I had something else. I should have written it down, but it was the T'Challa's arc, and I think it was something to do with just. No, it was Ryan Coogler's just directing. He's so good, and he this is again something that we could save for later, but I'm sort of vague on how much input he has on Infinity War, because they have discussed that the Russos have talked to him about like how they use Wakanda as a setting, and I don't know, like, oh, it was a thing I said about the Thor movies, which is that the one big downside to Black Panther being as good as it is that I officially do not need the Thor movies anymore. Like, none of them. Like, I have a really complicated relationship with Ragnarok, and I like that movie well enough. It's sort of in my lower half of MCU movies, and I think a lot of the stuff that Ragnarok does well and the first two Thor movies were trying to do, like, thematically and character arc-wise, are all done a million times better by Black Panther, so I officially do not need any of those movies. Like, one big negative about Black Panther, the Thor movies are now all completely obsolete to me.
That's a fair point. I think Ragnarok, it's building on some of the themes in the previous movies, but for the most part, that's working almost autonomously. When you look at the Thor movies as a trilogy, the first two, yeah, they're definitely not great, and we kind of slide past all the political stuff that Black Panther just nails. But yeah, I kind of agree with you. I don't need those movies necessarily, but I think Chris Hemsworth is a joy as Thor.
True. Like, Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston are now the only reasons that I think anyone would go back to those movies, because like Black Panther handled the colonialism, like immigration discussion better, and it handled just like the it's hard for a good man to be a king part better, because we kind of tried to make the first couple Thor movies about that, and that's in Ragnarok. But I don't know, I feel like if I'm going to go back to Ragnarok, because I'm probably never going to watch the first two Thor movies again, it's going to be for very superficial, like, just I like hanging out with these characters reasons.
Thor is more about, you watch it for the more comical, the light show. It's to me, it's just a different thing. Like, when I watch Black Panther, it's more about the story and the more political side of things, and like the becoming of King story. But Thor, to me, it's more goes more in like the Guardians category. So for me, it's not a problem. But the first two movies, yeah, I will not probably bother with them again unless I'm doing like a marathon.
Yeah. Because, like, the thing is, even if you do a marathon, I feel like those movies, the first two, don't significantly inform Ragnarok outside of maybe some stuff with Loki.
Mm-hmm.
I think the more I think about it, there are certain bits in Ragnarok that almost work better if you just forget that the first two movies happened.
There's a
But, like,
reason why they tried to erase everything that happened in the
yeah,
first 5 minutes.
that's sort of a discussion for another day, I guess.
Yeah, but still. But yeah, but I really don't think, like I said, it's so much eliminating this movie. Like I said, Thor has his place and everything, but this movie is just really good on its own merits and stuff. And like I said, it really, the political stuff, as you guys probably see my posts, resonated with me. And like, and Killmonger is
Killmonger.
I call him Killmonger. It's a fantastic villain. And yeah. And Sherry, I don't care what anybody says, she is the best Disney princess. She counts, okay? She counts. Alright.
I really like Shuri. That's one of the things I forgot to mention. I really like Shuri. She's practically like a gigantic fan favorite now. Everyone's just dying to see more of her in Infinity War, and I can't blame them. She's fantastic. She essentially serves as the movie's Q, giving T'Challa all the new weapons and upgrades, and I love the brother sister dynamic that they have. It feels so real and genuine.
Yeah. I feel like real
I feel like I'm having with Shuri, and a lot of people are having with Shuri, what people had with Korg and Louise, except even more so because unlike those two characters, Shuri is allowed to have some pathos in some scenes. So like she's not just the comic relief, so she's really compelling.
Yeah.
One more major thing I want to bring up before we move on, and I just want to emphasize, is the music. I can't pronounce his name. I'm not even going to try. I don't want to butcher his name. The same composer who composed the Creed score that Ryan Coogler worked on also worked on this film, Black Panther. And this guy is absolutely incredible. I would listen to the Creed score just when I was working out, like in my off time, when I first joined the Navy. And that score really has really stuck with me. And you get to this film, and he didn't just like go online, look up African music, and then try to make a score off of it. He flew all the way out to Africa and observed actual African tribes performing music and built the score off of that. And that just shows so much dedication, so much commitment. And we do praise Black Panther. A lot of people praise Black Panther for the black director and the black cast. This is a white composer, and for him to be that authentic with an African score, I just think is fantastic.
Yeah. And not just him, because his score is brilliant, and it is, I think, the best score that any of these movies have had.
Hands down.
Contributions. Like, this song has only existed for maybe 3 or 4 weeks, and All the Stars is already one of my favorite songs of all time.
Yeah, that was Ryan Coogler's idea, to have Kendrick also perform, make original songs just for this movie, and that was a stroke of genius as well.
Yes, and also, that's another thing that I actually forgot to mention the first time that we did this, about the score, which is, and it's such a weird thing, but T'Challa is like the only character in any of these movies who has a theme song that like uses his name in it, and I feel like more than any other like hero, he's earned that. Like, yeah, if any character earned like a theme song that's like T'Challa, 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 it's this guy.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, hands down, this is the best soundtrack for any of the movies. It actually stuck with me because a lot of them kind of just in the background, but this one actually went home and look it up and was listening to it afterwards. So
Yeah.
I think
I
we've
think
covered everything. You guys want to move on?
yeah. Let's talk about the big guns. The reason the people are here.
yes, Avengers.
It's Infinity War time, baby.
Yes, it's hooray!
And I know that we're saving that. Actually, yeah, I'm gonna save it for later because we're ending on box office potential. So I'm gonna save my point for then.
All right. So who wants to go first on this one?
Let's get you two go first. I like listening.
Okay, so we're not getting into predictions just yet. We're just
Talking specifically
a
about
new
the trailer,
just
what we
released
saw, and what we thought of it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna come out and say I prefer the first trailer. I really, really like this one, and the more I watch it, there are things about it that I love. But I feel like the first trailer just had an unfair advantage of like the first real glimpses we're getting of this movie that's not terrible shaky cam footage.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it kind of had the novelty thing going for it. I like the music a bit more in the first trailer, and I don't know, I sort of because something I really appreciate about both these trailers is we get a tiny bit more humor in this one, but both of them have such a vibe of like, oh no, everyone is just being tortured in this movie. Like there's lots of screaming, there's lots of very concerned, worried faces. No one is okay throughout this movie. And I feel like that vibe was just a little bit harder in the first trailer because we didn't like have any explicitly humorous moments. The music was a bit more like overbearing. But yeah, it's a really good trailer. Like, come on, what do you want me to say?
Okay.
And like
so, I guess I'll go next. I guess I'll argue with you a little bit. I like this trailer more, just because it shows us. I think it strikes that perfect tone that I was initially really resisting and really worried about when we first even found out we were going to get this movie. I was afraid that, well, me personally, I didn't want this film to be comedic at all, like from the outset. I do, like, I was kind of in the camp that felt like Marvel was getting a little too repetitive with the too many jokes thing and that kind of undercutting the drama and the tension of certain scenes. And that was a big problem for Thor Ragnarok. And I recently, lessened how much I feel about that with Guardians 2, but I still feel like that's a problem to a degree with Guardians 2, that a lot of the humor keeps undercutting the drama. But I really didn't want that to be an issue in this movie, and it looks like it's finally not. I like the two big humorous moments we get in this trailer, and I also like that everything else is just punctuated with this serious, dire, like catastrophic event. I like that Gamora is the one narrating this trailer from the beginning, because she has the closest tie to Thanos than any of the other characters. Excuse me. So I like that we're gonna get some backstory with them. I really like that there's gonna be a flashback scene with like a child Gamora and Thanos, and then we're gonna flesh that out a little bit. And I know that a lot of dire comic fans are upset that Thanos' origin is going to be changed significantly for this movie. Try to make him a little more sympathetic as opposed to the mad titan that's just killing his entire race and his family included. I loved everything I saw. I love all the action. I like especially Tony and Peter Quill's little moment. That was great. I think that the big strong point of this movie is just seeing all these different characters that we've fallen in love with over the past decade just interacting with each other.
Yeah. That's gonna be the golden moment for the whole thing. Just to see this Rocket and Tony, Gamora, everybody just finally interacting with each other is like a fan's dream come true.
Yeah.
I thought before I pass it over to you, Nick, or Lucy, I think one of the biggest takeaways from this trailer is they pretty much emphasized, at least I felt, that we can expect that either Captain America or Tony will die. I think they emphasized that pretty hard at the ending of this trailer. When Thanos says, "I hope they'll remember you," and then he lunges at Tony, and it cuts to Thanos on Earth in Wakanda fighting Captain America, and Captain America struggling to hold back Thanos. I think it's pretty safe to say that either Iron Man or Tony will die.
Or Vision. Either one of those three will die.
I'll get to my thoughts on that part, but
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, but I love that you bring up that line, Malik, about I hope they remember you, because these two trailers are doing very similar things in different ways, and I really appreciate like how much we've dedicated in both of these trailers to giving Thanos depth and making him an actual character beyond just sort of he wants to destroy everything, yes, but I think he's being sincere when he's like, okay, when I'm done, there will still be people around, and I hope that they remember you. And my inference is like, I hope they remember you because it took guts to stand up to me, and like, I appreciate your sort of mettle and stuff. I still gotta kill you, but I hope that you have a legacy because just I can appreciate that. And in the first trailer, which to be fair, I think is kind of lessened a little bit from the initial like Comic-Con one, where he has a speech about knowing what it's like to lose and like to feel so desperately that you're right but fail all the same. Because in the initial like Comic-Con teaser, he is very explicitly talking about himself. He's like, I know what it's like to lose. And then in the official trailer, he sort of says, you'll find out what it's like to lose. And I hope that in the movie, it's the he's talking about himself bit in that scene. Like, I hope that's just some sort of fancy trailer audio editing, and that he is still talking about himself, because if he is, that instantly gives him, like, a ton more depth than a lot of villains that we've had so far.
If I may interject really quick, to jump off that point, I think that that little change was altered just to make that line seem more threatening in the trailer.
Yeah, that's probably what I'm for.
I think it'll most likely be I know what it's like to lose when we actually get the movie, since we are fleshing out Thanos and working really hard to make him the most interesting, most compelling, and most badass villain that we've had in this entire universe. But I just think for selling it, they wanted him to be as threatening as possible, so that's why that line was changed.
Yeah.
I'm not with Lucy because I know that you mentioned that you didn't want like spoilers beyond like marketing, and I mentioned that they did some magazine interviews about like character motivations and stuff. Have you read those yet, or are you privy to what those discussed, or do you not want to know about that?
You can go ahead. It's for your channel. Just do it.
Okay,
Yeah, I
just because
I don't care about spoilers at all.
I know
More often than not.
Yeah,
I mean,
Just go ahead, Nick. It's for your
I'm sorry.
channel. You gotta do it.
I'm gonna avoid like scene setup stuff that they talked about, and I'm gonna keep it to Thanos, because they did mention that his motivation in this movie is sort of explicitly like his planet died. He's Jor-El basically. From what I understand of it, Thanos is Jor-El in this movie, where his planet died. He saw it coming. He tried to warn people. They didn't listen, and that led to his planet being destroyed. And now he sort of feels like life in the universe is sort of out. It's getting too big for its britches, and he has to do sort of a mass culling to like manage life so that just life throughout the universe doesn't get too big to where it starts to threaten itself. He's just gonna wipe out half of it. And I like that we're explicit about that. Like, everyone who knows Thanos and who knew Infinity Gauntlet going into this movie is like, the thing he does is he snaps his fingers and he kills half of existence. And now we're taking that sort of iconic thing, because in the comics, that's just sort of a whim. That's just sort of a thing that he does in the moment to like impress Death. Now we're making it, that's the big thing that he wants to do. And it's not just going to be something that he does like spur of the moment. And so I really like that. I like that we've basically taken sort of this really sympathetic character thing that we have in this iconic story, and it's Thanos' whole motivation and his whole like tragic backstory. It's like, what if Jor-El survived Krypton and became a crazy person?
But yeah, it sounds like he is going to be a very interesting villain. This is not going to be, and this is something, you know, I disagree that the only villain we had since like, you know, from Black Panther before that was Loki, but yeah, I think Ultron was good, but for the most part a lot of them are kind of forgettable, and it seems like you're trying really hard not to let this happen.
Yeah, we've kind of discussed this before, I think, in terms of villains that we think are pretty good. I love Ultron. Anyone who knows me knows that.
Yeah.
I think Killmonger's just good, not better. And like really close to those two is Vulture from Homecoming.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of.
He's decent, yeah.
I'm even kind of partial to Killian from Iron Man 3. Like,
Yeah, he's
Forrest made a little post on Facebook about how much he dislikes Killian, and I'm like, I don't know, as far as like these movies go, he has a really unique plan and sort of just approach to everything. I think these movies deserve way more credit than they get in terms of villains.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, I feel like just going off this trailer, we're immediately doing more with Thanos than we do with a lot of these guys, even the ones that I like. I feel like no matter what happens, the way that it's going to shake out is, for me personally, it's going to be Ultron, Vulture, Killmonger, and Thanos for like best in terms of the movies. And that I feel that confident just going off a trailer is like, I really hope that they do not let us down, and that like they really capitalize on the character that they're building here in the marketing.
Yeah.
If I can talk about all the superficial stuff for a minute.
Please do.
Sure.
I love everyone's, well, yeah, pretty much everyone's new outfits. I love Spider-Man's Iron Spider armor.
Mm-hmm.
I like that Cap's costume is now like, it's almost, what's the right word? Like almost drained of color.
Yeah.
Like he's removed the white chest symbol, because he's dropped that moniker. We saw him give up that title at the end of Civil War when he dropped the shield and walked away, because Tony said, "You don't deserve that shield," and Captain America took that to heart, and so he left the Captain America mantle behind in that moment. So now it's literally just something that he wears. It's not a uniform. It's not a symbol. It's literally just a thing that he's wearing now.
Yeah.
So I really like that. I like
Like all the jokes like people about he hasn't washed it in 2 years.
That's why it's so washed out. Let's be real. I think you really need to go to dry cleaners.
I like the beard and the long hair. Yeah, that implies that they're really doing the Nomad storyline from the comics, where, you know, he just gives up being Captain America for a while and just kind of retreats into himself, and then comes back now that there's this big global, arguably universal threat that now everyone on the planet has to face. I love Tony's new armor. That it's like appears to be this kind of nanotech. He's made it like this almost nanotech technology. Like his feet can now turn into a giant booster. His suit can literally just like form around him. We saw that in like the TV spot that they dropped a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it's been a steady thing that they've done throughout the MCU. He's always upgrading and noodling with his suits, and he makes a more advanced suit for every film. And I like that towards the end of this trailer, and we see that Thanos is talking to him while he's on Thanos' homeworld, Titan. He says, "I hope they remember you." And then we see Tony. He's all beaten and battered, and you see that half his suit is off. That's been like almost torn or blown off. And I like the idea that Tony's been building and constantly upgrading this suit for this moment, and it's still not even remotely enough to stand up to Thanos.
Yeah.
And like, just in terms of going back to what you mentioned about the costumes, I will say the one costume that I don't care for is Black Widow's.
I knew you were gonna say that. I was gonna mention that.
Yeah.
I'm including like the hair and the stuff in that costume, but it's like I feel like it's just her eyebrows that are throwing me off. And
The
like
costume doesn't look right. I'm just gonna be honest. It looks a bit off.
it's the bulky green thing. It's like the vest that she's wearing.
Mhm.
And I suspect that the movie will like give a practical reason for why she's wearing that.
Mhm.
But it just feels like after so many movies and after like practically 8 years of watching her in like a skin tight catsuit, it suddenly feels like not harmonious to be like, okay, here's a big bulky green part.
Well, I'll play devil's advocate for that. I don't really have an issue with her hair, like that she's blonde now. That feels like a change for the sake of change thing, and that's fine. Her hair was completely different in Winter Soldier, and I was fine with that as well. I know everyone was tripping out about her hair in Winter Soldier, but I didn't have an issue with it. My main issue is just the costume. It doesn't feel Black Widow. Grace Randolph talked about this, I think, when we first saw what her costume would look like for this movie. That they've essentially like given her a costume that makes her feel like a different character. Like you look at that and like that's not Black Widow. That looks like, and I get the argument that like they're in a war, so she's dressing as a soldier. But the argument that I would make is she was kind of fighting a war at the end of Avengers, and she was still in her spy outfit. So what's the difference there?
I really think that basically Black Widow and Thor basically don't look like their characters anymore because the way they changed them. Thor,
I wouldn't go that far. Aside from the eye thing, and Thor's hair being shorter,
yeah.
I actually like the way Thor looks.
I mean, it's cool for story purposes, but he doesn't look like the original Thor no more. But Black Widow, they took it to even more extreme because her costume doesn't look like the one in the comics. Her hair doesn't look like the one in the comics, and now it's kind of like if you didn't know that was supposed to be Black Widow, you wouldn't. That's the problem now.
Well, like she's on the run from the law. I feel like she and the rest of Team Cap are just kind of hiding, and like part of why Cap grew out the beard, and Wanda also has a slightly different hair color. I feel like that's all just them in disguise, like because they do have those iconic looks and they're trying not to be immediately noticed.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's going to
next one.
I feel like that's going to be the in-movie reasoning for it. And I forget if I've mentioned this before in another video, but someone made a point about it seems like whether they meant to or not, all of these movies have just kind of slowly been building to making this movie look as apocalyptic as possible. So that's why we get rid of all the colors in like Cap's outfit and why Thor looks like Snake Plissken because he's missing an eye. It's like we sort of slowly over the course of Phase 3, I think, built to this aesthetic of everything is more dark and grim looking. So even if this movie does have the humor and sort of that sort of thing, and the settings look a bit more colorful, we still have this undercurrent of all of these characters look worn out and grayer, and that adds to a sort of dark mood about the movie. And like, this is the end times.
Yeah, it's all coming to an end, and they all look worn out, and it's just like tired. That's why I really don't have a problem like the Thor so much. But like I said, they don't really look like they're iconic characters anymore. But like I said, Black Widow still looks off to me in just a very weird way.
Yeah.
There are two big things I want to mention really quick before we move on. The first one is I love the Black Order. It's been a while since I've read the Infinity Gauntlet storyline, so I don't remember their names. But I love that Thanos has this elite group of 4 badass aliens to like take on the Avengers and get the stones. The one of
Two
the
names.
the one that stands out to
I
me
know.
in this trailer is the one who's looks to be torturing Doctor Strange.
Yeah, okay, I know two names. I know that that one is named Ebony Maw, and I know that I think it might be the other female one, like the one who's got like the spear. I think their name is Corvus Glaive.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
The other two I'm not sure about though.
But yeah, like
But
with
also,
Apocalypse, he has he has the four horsemen of the apocalypse. And of course like there's just other examples are escaping me right now, but like we've done that kind of thing before of giving villains this badass elite death squad. And I like Thanos' death squad here, the Black Order.
And if with the cast this big we manage to also make those characters really cool and memorable, then like that's gonna make Apocalypse look even worse. Because I
yeah.
Yeah.
do not care for much of anything in that movie, but like, come on, you're gonna let them pull that concept even better than wow.
Yeah, I was thinking that the minute you were bringing it up, I said, wait a minute, this is X-Men. But
And their leader is also a bald, bluish purple guy, and it's like
yeah.
we pretty much just took Apocalypse and we're doing Apocalypse better.
Yeah.
And it's a big, wide-scale, epic thing with
Yeah.
different teams of characters in different settings, and they meet up for the third act. Like,
Yeah.
that's what that movie is.
We're
Like
gonna
Infinity
take
War might as well be like subtitled "Suck It Apocalypse."
I like Apocalypse, but I do not think it's a good movie, as you know, Nick. But yeah, it seems like we're going to make Apocalypse good.
Yeah, and just since we're talking about them, they're like their moniker for this movie is the Children of Thanos, and I really like. I feel like we've also been subtly building over the course of the Guardians movies, like Gamora and Nebula are going to be a big deal in this movie. Like, and I love, speaking of like ways that these two trailers are different and yet they're sort of accomplishing a similar like feel. I think it was a really like inspired choice to have the team like each doing a little bit of Nick Fury's speech in the beginning of the first trailer, and an equally inspired choice, if not even more of one, to have Gamora do the opening narration for this one, because I feel like it could be kind of easy to forget in a marketing perspective of like, we've heard that the Guardians are going to be kind of secondary to the Avengers in this movie, but no, Gamora and Nebula are Thanos' daughters, and Gamora is his favorite daughter, and I don't know, like, having her be the one who's like, we sort of open with her words, we open with a flashback to her as a child getting picked up by Thanos. Like, I love, my biggest hope for this movie, I feel like this movie is going to be like pitch perfect. I'll have no complaints if it just follows through on everything that it's setting up in these trailers. Like, if anything in these trailers becomes like misleading or doesn't get properly capitalized on, I think that'll be the one thing that might weaken this movie.
Yeah.
These trailers are setting up such a perfect like.
Yeah.
Of course,
that does happen a lot. So I mean, prepare for the worst, but still, let's just hope what the trailers are saying is what we're going to get.
Yeah.
And the other big thing, real quick, before we move on, is Wakanda. I love that that is such a big, important part of this movie. From what I read from interviews, it's Cap's idea. Since he's the battle tactician, it's Cap's idea to take Vision there and protect him there.
Which, I mean, smart move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Arguably the most defensible place in the entire MCU.
Yeah.
And you guys said you don't mind like talking about the magazine discussion. They kind of mentioned that like Wakanda is the third act of the movie. Like, I feel like, because I don't know, they say things about like the act structure of these movies sometimes that turn out to not be entirely true.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like we're gonna kind of hold off on Wakanda until like the climax, and then it's going to be the whole final third of the movie is Wakanda and the groups kind of coalescing there. And I feel like that's what we're building to. And like, I don't know. Again, it's just kind of the genius of, if that's the case, like, fine, let's market this as smartly as possible, where the movie that just became a giant smash hit cultural touchstone, like, we show you as much as we can of that, even though it might be like toward the end of the movie without spoiling anything. It's like really, just really smart. This entire marketing like department for these two trailers is just, I don't know, did they get a new guy to like market these two trailers? Because this is like an exceptional level of putting all the best possible stuff in the trailers that we haven't had in any of these movies, I don't think, to this degree.
Yeah.
And with that, let's move into marketing.
Yep.
Yeah. So like, what angle do you want to tackle this from, I guess?
Well, basically, just talk about how we feel that they've handled the marketing so far, and what we're expecting from the marketing moving forward, and what we want from the marketing moving forward. So, I guess I'll go ahead and go first. I like that they're playing it so close to the vest. You know, there's plenty of fans and even just regular moviegoers who are adamant about not getting spoiled with trailers. Like, they want to see more, they want to be excited, but they don't want to feel like they've already seen the movie before they actually see the movie. And I think that's something that Marvel has really, really keyed in on and made sure they focus on in putting out these two trailers. Because we've seen a lot of footage. I don't feel like I've seen even half this movie. And I freaking love that.
Yeah.
I want them. I think it's almost a no-brainer that they, not a no-brainer in the sense of they should do it, but a no-brainer in the sense of it'll most definitely happen. I don't think there's any way they don't. I think we'll definitely get another trailer. I don't think they need to.
That's pretty close. The only reason, normally we get like 3 trailers, but it's gonna be cutting really close. So
I would imagine them doing it though. I don't know. Maybe they'll surprise us, but I don't see a world where we don't get another official third trailer for this movie.
We might.
I hope we don't. I'll be the first one to say that I hope we don't. But I think we will. I think they'll put out another full-length trailer for this movie.
Yeah, but hopefully it'll be just like a mismatch of the clips and things that we already seen, and maybe just a few little bits from the movie, so it won't be too small.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm sort of in the exact opposite camp. Like, I'm hoping we don't get another trailer, and I'm really expecting that we don't. Like, I don't know. I feel like the way that they space these two out, like, you put out the second trailer, like, the day that tickets go on sale, and, like, we're less than 2 months out, I don't think we're getting a third trailer. But if
then again, you might be right about that, because I'm pretty sure that's the exact same tack that they took with Black Panther. I think they put out the final trailer for that, which was the second trailer, on the same day that they put out tickets. I'm pretty sure.
I have no idea.
The tickets went on sale.
Okay.
Yeah, they did almost the exact same thing with Black Panther, so that makes sense.
Well, hopefully they'll just put out 2 here, or like I said, do just a mismatch of what we already have. So not to ruin the movie, because when you get too many trailers, it does start to feel like, okay, right now we're at the point, as we said, it feels like we've seen a lot of the movie, but we haven't seen the whole movie.
If there's any movie you don't need to work very hard to sell, it would be this movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't have
like,
to work hard.
This movie literally sells itself.
I'll get into this again when we talk about box office potential, but I'm just like, at this point, they understand they don't have to sell this movie anymore, right?
I would hope.
They should. They gotta know. This is the blockbuster franchise that they have built over the past 10 years. And like, it's this gigantic combination of all these different things that people love all coming into one movie. this is the beautiful thing about this movie. You're not the biggest Marvel fan, but you love Spider-Man. You're going to see this movie. You're not the biggest Marvel fan, but you loved Black Panther. You're going to see this movie.
Yeah. If you liked any of these movies or
If you've liked any movie in this entire franchise, you're going to see this movie.
Yeah, just to see those characters again one last time, or well, this is the first half, but still.
Yeah. Except Malik Ant-Man, which is potentially a misstep, because we are marketing Ant-Man's own sequel, but it seems kind of weird to me that he has not been in any of the marketing for this movie. Like Hawkeye.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, now that you mentioned it, yeah, I forgot about him.
Hawkeye hasn't shown up in either of the trailers, but he's at least in that teaser poster that we got like a year or so ago. Ant-Man's not even in that. Like, where is Scott? What is he doing while all this is going down? How are you gonna have this movie and like we set up Ant-Man and Giant Man? How is he not gonna be part of this film?
If you look at the iconic, in my opinion, the iconic, like famous artwork that they have for this movie, where you see Thanos with the gauntlet,
That's
and
the poster.
the lights are branching out, and you see Iron Man. You see pretty much everyone all together in this one cool like poster. You see Ant-Man standing on Iron Man's shoulder.
No,
Now,
what you're talking about, that was a fan edit.
that was a fan edit.
Damn.
Okay. Well, darn. All right. Well, I
Yeah,
don't know. We know for a fact that Hawkeye is in this movie. They're just not choosing to show him, and I think that's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
He might have a really like small part, and same thing with Ant-Man. Like, so.
Clint's part might be sort of like a spoiler, maybe, because they say he's like on his own path. He's sort of divorced from everyone else. So I think his part is going to be really small and really important because, you know, even if he was only in the movie for 5 minutes, but they got like a shot of him that they could show, they would show it. I feel like whatever he's doing, it's super unexpected and they want to keep it a surprise. So unless Scott is with him, then I don't know what he could possibly be doing because he's also one of the few characters that you haven't seen at all in set photos. Because Clint, at least we get in set photos for Infinity War and Avengers 4. Scott is in, I think, one set photo and it's out of costume. So I'm really not sure what his deal is. Like, I don't know.
There's a photo where he's in costume, but I'm pretty sure they were shooting Avengers 4 when that released.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's an Ant-Man and the Wasp set photo. And it's just
But
like...
he was standing with Tony
Yeah.
in his suit.
Oh,
So
okay.
either Tony's having a cameo in that movie for like a post-credit scene, or that was shooting for Avengers 4. I'm pretty sure that Ant-Man was spotted in costume for Avengers 4.
Yeah, that didn't make sense. But it's just kind of weird to me that if it's like this movie, like you just mentioned, we're building up intentionally to this sort of thing. It's like, if you've liked any of these characters in any of these movies, you owe it to yourself to come see this one. And Ant-Man didn't do huge box office, but
People liked it.
People really liked it.
Yeah.
And I feel like most people liked it more than I did. And so it feels weird to me that you wouldn't capitalize on that at least a little bit. Like, just show him shrinking a little bit or show him growing a little bit in like a shot or two. So like either he's not in this movie or only in Avengers 4, or he's like got really important, super surprising spoiler role that they can't show you any of.
Marvel's in a really awkward place in that regard because you have their big, huge tentpole, like the biggest movie that they've ever released coming out in April. And then I believe in July, we get Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah.
I trust that the studio knows what they're doing enough that they know like how to make that work, but it seems really weird to me, like kind of a strange decision that, like how, unless we're jumping back and forth in the timeline again, like how does this movie end that the world looks kind of normal between it and Avengers 4, you know what I mean?
That's the thing. You go back and watch that trailer, and I think it is set before Infinity War, because the first things we see from that trailer is Ant-Man talking to Wasp and asking her if I asked for your help when we were in that little fight in the airport, would you have come? And she was like, yeah, and you also wouldn't have gotten caught. So I think it takes place probably right after Civil War.
You know what I think? The more I think about it, and I guess we're just moving into full-on prediction territory now. But like,
Yeah,
what
sure.
I think might happen is someone's going to mention Scott in this movie and why he isn't there. Like Clint or Steve or somebody's going to be like, we could use Giant Man right now. Where's Scott? And it's going to be a short thing of like, it's so weird that he isn't here. And then Ant-Man and the Wasp is going to come out, and that movie is going to end with like Scott/Hope like indisposed, and then into Avengers 4 we're going to like pick up that thread. That seems to me like the only reason you would like jump backward in time that way, the way it seems, is that movie's going to end with like explaining why Scott couldn't be in Infinity War.
Yeah, maybe both he and Wasp got, shrunk down into that like micro dimension that they were talking about in the first movie.
Yeah, and like part of Avengers 4 is getting them out of that.
Yeah. Well, it is strange we haven't seen anything, but maybe they just don't think people care that much about Ant-Man, even though the new movie is coming out. You would think you want to capitalize on all of this because it will also help the next movie as well. But
well, I love Hawkeye. If they killed him, I'd be upset. I would. I'm not gonna lie. I'd probably cry. Like I love Hawkeye. I love Jeremy Renner. So if he was one of the people that died in this movie, that would knock the wind out of my chest.
I don't think he will be. It's because he hasn't had that much of a role in the whole thing, and
that's true.
Yeah.
Not everyone loves Hawkeye as much as I do.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think that they're gonna go for someone that they know pretty much everyone across the board, fans and even just casual viewers, will get an emotional impact out of seeing die.
Yeah.
And now that we're there, who do you guys think will die? Yeah. Like I said, I think it's between Iron Man and Cap and Steve. One of them is not making it through this movie. That's what I think.
I think one or both of them, honestly. Yeah. Like, okay, so we can assume, because of like costuming and stuff, that in Avengers 4 we're getting into like time travel shenanigans. And we know that Tony and Steve will both be included in the time travel shenanigans. We don't know if it's their present or like past selves, but I don't know, I feel like you're right. Either one or both of them is dead by the end of this movie. I think, just based on what I have to go on so far, I'm going to infer that Tony at least survives into Avengers 4. I feel like that's what we're doing. I think Steve might die, but even more than Steve, I feel like of everyone in this movie, the one like most confirmed... Are you guys frozen?
No.
Okay. Just being sure, because like you guys weren't moving for a second. But, like, I feel like out of anyone in this entire movie, the one most confirmed not making it out alive is Loki. I think, and this is not an uncommon theory at this point, but I
have the same one.
Yep. We have a lot of discussions about like how like the first 5 or 15 minutes of this movie, Thanos does something that lets you know that he is the worst villain we've ever had, and like all of the shots of Loki and all of the marketing have been from one scene. And I think, and like, how does Hulk get back to Earth? How does Thor end up floating in space? The end of Ragnarok. I bet you cold hard cash, the first 5 to 15 minutes of this movie is we pick up like immediately after the post-credit scene in Ragnarok. Thanos shows up, kills all the Asgardians, kills Loki, like sends Thor and Hulk hurtling through space. Bet you that's how this movie starts.
Yeah, I guarantee you that's how it starts, man. I can see it right now. Like Thanos and his goons have killed all these Guardians, and Loki is holding up the Tesseract, and that's basically like what he thinks is his get out of jail free card. Here you go, just take this, I'll be on my way. And Thanos takes it and then kills him.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I don't want any of these characters to die, but I know they're all going to die because most of their contracts are up and they're done. So,
like, I can't tell you, like, Guardians Volume 2 is the only one of these movies to ever make me cry, so I don't have, like, a precedent for, like, bawling tears in an MCU movie outside of that, but I feel like I might just, like, bawl tears when any of these characters die, because they're talking about, like, once they're dead, it's permanent. And, like, time travel shenanigans in Avengers 4 might be an exception, whatever. Like, we'll see these characters as, like, past selves or something. But, like, I'm not ready to say goodbye to these characters forever. Like, I've grown with them for the past 10 years. Like, what am I gonna do? And it's
neither am I. Tony?
Although, honestly...
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, make your point, because I am gonna kind of tangent, so say your thing first.
Okay. I was just gonna say that Tony and Captain America, Steve Rogers, those two have metaphorically been at each other's throats for my favorite character in this franchise. I adore both of them. And I know this movie is gonna kill one of them, which just breaks my heart.
Or both, which is going to be even more.
Or both. My God. I don't know how I'd survive the ending of the movie. I don't know how I would make it back to my car after seeing this movie. I feel like I'd just sit in the theater and cry, and then the people who worked it have to be like, "Sir, the movie ended like 3 hours ago. We need you to leave."
I can totally
see that. It's like, no, but they killed Tony. They killed Captain.
I don't know. I feel like at that point they'll understand. They'll be like, "It's okay, sir. We know how you feel. It's all right. Just take your time."
We'll have like a tissue box and hold out like we know. But still.
And also, okay, yeah. So just, I predicted that would be the beginning of the movie. I don't think it's gonna be the very beginning. Like the only other prediction, or like one of the other predictions that I'm like real confident in, is I think we kind of discussed this, Malik, with Black Panther, and how we sort of made a trend of doing these movies where we have a cold open and something that seems kind of like a miscellaneous detail in the cold open becomes like a twist or surprisingly relevant in the third act of the movie or whatever. In Black Panther, it was Killmonger being that kid playing basketball. In Guardians Volume 2, it was the plant. In Civil War, it's the mission that Bucky goes on. I feel like we're gonna do the same thing in Infinity War. We're gonna set up like something important for the meat of the movie in like an opening pre-intro sequence scene. And my prediction is that scene is going to be the Thanos picking up baby Gamora. I think that's gonna be like the very first thing we see in this movie is Thanos taking over Gamora's planet or wiping it out or whatever and taking baby Gamora, and that's how we like really open the movie.
Yeah, I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, I would love that if they would do it. But it looks like they
and
would.
Like something is happen or something's gonna be said in that scene that comes back later, and it's like I pick up on that.
Yeah, because they've done that in the last couple of movies, like you said, because it's like, okay, starts out like, what's this got to do with everything else? And then it just all comes together.
Yeah. And then it comes back as like, how could I not?
Yeah.
Now I'm predicting it because Black Panther was the last time that they were able to pull the wool over my eyes like that.
Yeah, same here. But I guess box office, is it gonna make...
Oh, do you guys have any more predictions?
Okay. As far as predictions go, like I said, either Tony or Steve, one of them dies, or both of them die. Oh my god. But aside from that, predictions. This is a pretty lofty prediction, but I think Kevin Feige and the Russo brothers and really everyone involved with this project behind the scenes I think they're working their asses off to truly make Thanos worth the wait as a villain, and I think they're going to deliver. I think that this is going to be the best villain in the MCU so far. That's my prediction.
Okay.
I would say that with confidence, but he just got some really steep competition.
Yeah.
That's true. Killmonger is a lot to live up to.
Yeah, Killmonger.
Although I will say Thanos might have a bit of an advantage, unless we sort of structure it similarly to how we did Black Panther, because they're kind of selling, both in these trailers and in interviews, they're almost selling Thanos as the main character. Like, the good guys are the protagonists, but Thanos seems like he might be, to an extent, maybe even the audience POV character. Like, I remember, like, a year ago, before we really got, like, trailers and stuff, and they were talking about Thanos, I kind of had this idea in my head of, like, maybe the movie just follows Thanos, and we only even get the heroes as he meets them. And, like, that seemed like a weird experimental thing. That's obviously not what we're getting, but I don't know. Killmonger... It's not even clear that Killmonger is the villain of the movie until we're already into the third act of Black Panther.
Mm-hmm.
And so he doesn't get as much exposure as I think Thanos might get. So that is one advantage he might have.
Yeah, that was one of my main problems, that he didn't have enough screen time. I don't think that'll be the case with Thanos.
I didn't even think of it like a problem. Like, I really like the way that it was structured. Like, the fact that he is... If it weren't for the marketing, the fact that Killmonger is the villain of the movie and not Claw almost plays like a twist.
Yeah.
And suddenly the movie is like a Shakespearean family tragedy where the outsider comes in and it turns out he was relevant the whole time. And, I don't know, I think we might do something kind of similar with Thanos, where it's like it's about family... and it's kind of just this big, epic, tragic thing following this guy. And I don't know, I think you're right, Malik. I think we might have, like, gold standard with this dude.
Yeah, as far as Killmonger goes, I don't think... I thought he got a decent amount of screen time. But I do think he registers as the villain really the second... that T'Challa accepts his challenge to fight him.
Yep.
And that's, I want to say, a good 15 minutes before we get, like, the third act of the movie.
I feel like that's... Like, I feel like him showing up at the border is like, okay, we're done with the second act, we're starting, like, the big push towards...
That's where you think the third act starts?
Yeah. It's not a... It's, to be fair, it's not, like, a very... It's not a cliched, structured movie.
That's
like
true.
As rigidly 1, 2, 3 acts as a lot of these other movies can be. But I feel like once he arrives in Wakanda is when we're into, like, we are building towards the final confrontation. Whereas all the stuff with Claw was like set up. Now we're like, okay, we're like going now towards the end.
That would make Black Panther a superhero movie that has one of the longest third acts ever.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't.
And like, okay, so
structure.
the fact that this movie is going to be set in Wakanda, and it seems to be a lot of it, because it doesn't seem like it's just going to be action. Like, we're going to have characters talking, we're going to have some plot stuff. So I feel like this might be also a really long third act, and I am so ready for it.
Yeah. I mean, like...
I kind of feel like that will be almost... Could you imagine if, like, Wakanda, like, the whole third act of the movie is, like, a half hour? Like, an entire half hour is just from Wakanda pretty much to the end of the movie.
Like, this movie is 2:15. I think it's entirely plausible we get, like, a 40-45 minute stretch of, like, in Wakanda, this is, like, sort of the giant climax of the movie.
I have a question for you, for both of you, actually. When I heard the initial runtime for this movie, I was slightly concerned. I was expecting us to get more of a 2:45, like, as long as The Dark Knight Rises. Maybe even slightly longer. Now, it's the Russo brothers. They've done The Winter Soldier. They've done Civil War. They know how to juggle characters. I trust them, but I just did you guys initially question that at all? I mean, this is still the longest MCU movie we've gotten so far, which I think is appropriate. But do you think that this movie will suffer at all from being as short as it is?
Not at all. Like, never, it did not once occur to me, and for two reasons. One is, like you mentioned, this is the Russos, and also, again, as someone who loves both of the Avengers movies, like, unconditionally, I don't think we've had a single ensemble film yet that hasn't made appropriate use of everyone in the cast. It would be the first time, for me personally, that they'd failed to juggle cast perfectly if it didn't happen in this movie. But also, just this movie is 15 minutes longer than Black Panther. Black Panther just came out and juggled its story so masterfully, and that's also almost an ensemble movie. Like, T'Challa is the protagonist, but it's such a big cast and everyone is used so well and everyone kind of has a relevance and an arc. And like, just going off how this seems to be structured, where it's not we're trying to fit a giant cast of people into every scene. It's like we're jumping back and forth between like carefully managed groups, like three main groups of people. I feel like with 15 minutes plus on Black Panther, that movie is like managed so well, and it doesn't feel long either. Like, that movie is longer than a lot of these movies, and it doesn't remotely feel like a slog. Like, I almost have trouble, like, calling that movie, like, over 2 hours, just because I've seen it 4 times, and each time it feels like it flew by almost. I feel like we might have a thing with this movie where not only does it not feel like too little time, I feel like it'll feel as jam-packed and somehow manage to feel like, oh, well, that didn't even feel like over 2 hours, in a good way.
Yeah. I was a little concerned when I first heard about it. I was like, I thought it was going to be at least like 2 hours and, 2.5 hours. But thinking about it, and this is the first half of it, too. So I think it's going to work out as far as pacing and everything goes. Because if it gets too long, it might drag a little bit. I was thinking on the other hand. So
Nick, you're adjusting for credits, right? Because from what I saw, it was 2:30 something.
I am just adjusting for credits.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure of that.
It's 2:30 something versus Black Panther, which is 2:15.
Yeah, I don't like that when we announce runtimes for movies, we still include credits. Like, just how long is the actual movie from beginning to right before the credits hit? Yeah. Why can't we do that?
They need to cut that out because it's a little.
Although, to be fair, with Marvel movies especially, post-credit scenes, so.
You're right. I didn't even think of that. You know what? You're right. Yeah. And I always stay for those, so I guess I'm asking for something that I want but don't want. Like, I don't know. I'm being very contradictory right now.
And also, I don't know to what extent this is going to happen, but I feel like we're sort of pacing this because someone on Twitter that I follow mentioned that, like, the approach to this movie seems to be like Game of Thrones, where we'll just cut to multiple groups of people over the course of an episode, and it kind of feels like everyone has something to do. And I think we're going to do that for the majority of the movie up until maybe the last 20-30 minutes, where I think maybe not Thor, Rocket, and Groot, because I'm not sure exactly what their goal is, but I think we're gonna get to a place where everyone meets up in Wakanda.
Yeah,
I think that's very true, especially because before this trailer, I thought that that the third act was going to take place in 2 separate locations. I thought that we were going to have the fight in Wakanda, and we were also going to have the fight on Titan, Thanos' homeworld, where we would see Star-Lord, Iron Man, Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange fight Thanos, while the rest of the team was holding off Thanos' army on Wakanda.
I have
But
the
we
exact.
see Thanos fighting Captain America in Wakanda. We see trees and that kind of environment in the background. So we know that's Wakanda, which means Thanos is there too. So the third act of this movie is pretty much Wakanda, and the Titan sequence happens before that.
Yeah. So I'm thinking like if we structure this the way that I'm assuming we do, the Titan fight is like the big second act fight, and then whoever's left after that fight goes to Wakanda, and like they meet up, and that's giant climax time.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know how Thor and Groot and Rocket are gonna play into it because they really seem like the most divorced from everyone else. It'll be a wait a second. No. Actually, you know what? I think the three of them show up for Wakanda too. I think, based on interviews, I have reason to believe that the three of them interact with the Earth-based guys at some point. So I think Wakanda is going to be everyone. I think everyone shows up for Wakanda.
So you guys ready to talk about box office and how much you think this bad boy will make?
Oh boy, I've been holding on to this. Do you guys know how many tickets it's already sold?
I know it's already beaten Black Panther in 6 hours.
Yeah.
In 6 hours, like 4 hours when they checked, it beat Black Panther in ticket sales.
I honestly thought Black Panther might do better. But now,
I thought so too. But
Yep.
now see, again, just like the genius of marketing this movie so heavily as like a continuation of that movie, because now you've got all these people who went to see Black Panther and do not care at all about Marvel and loved it so much, stuck around for the credits of that movie, saw Black Panther will return in Infinity War, see the trailer for Infinity War, there's Black Panther, there's Shuri, there's Wakanda, there's M'Baku if you squint. It's like they have grabbed on. It was such a genius move, just the way that they put these two movies relative to each other. Now they've got people seeing Infinity War who, like maybe a year ago, would not have cared about seeing Infinity War, and it's so great.
Yeah, it's almost like the sequel, like we said. Like, I think it will be like 45 minutes in Wakanda. I'm just gonna say that right now. So
A big chunk of the movie, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Marvel has created another fan base in and of itself. Just people who love Black Panther. That movie is like, it's in the zeitgeist right now. It's so like, it has made a hard, permanent stamp in pop culture, in our culture in general, and like people who have never even seen a Marvel movie suddenly love this character, and they're foaming at the mouth to see more of them.
Yeah.
And we're getting more of them in Infinity War.
Yeah.
Perfect. Marvel is they're so smart with what they do, and it's really cool to see. Now I know, like, we all know that Black Panther itself pretty much blew expectations out of the water. I think this movie is almost guaranteed to do the same. Whatever estimates they have for it, I think it'll shoot far past it, just like Black Panther did. So I think it has a shot of, I think it'll definitely beat the first Avengers box office gross.
Well, the second one didn't look as much as the first one. So.
Yeah, I'm talking about the first one.
Yeah.
I think it'll beat the box office for the first one.
Yeah.
People are talking like it beating Titanic and Avatar. Those are two tall orders to beat both of those.
Yeah.
I think it's got a shot. It's got a shot at beating Titanic. I don't know if it'll beat Avatar, because Avatar was this very weird enigma where there's no other movie like it, where it came out and 3D was a much bigger thing back then in 2009, and a lot of people were seeing movies that way, and that was the movie that you had to see in 3D. It was one of the best experiences you had in 3D. I saw it in 3D twice.
Plus,
it really that was the movie that everyone was talking about while it was coming out.
Yeah.
plus the big
And it
thing
didn't make a ton of money opening weekend. It did that thing where it had legs from week to week to week in word of mouth. People just kept talking about it and kept seeing it.
Yeah.
Plus, it had that 3D bump,
Yeah.
which you don't have as much now. People aren't watching movies like that now. They do IMAX, but 3D isn't really that big of a thing anymore.
Yeah, that really pushed it up because it's like $1 billion more than like the next movie. Like it's like $3 billion for Avatar, $2 billion for Titanic, and then the rest kind of falls like $1.5 billion. So
for Infinity War to beat Avatar, that's an incredibly high hill to climb.
I don't think it'll quite make that. It might get Titanic, but to make over $3 billion is almost impossible.
Yeah, but I think okay. I think $2 billion is almost a given for this movie. But like, okay, so there's no precedent for this. Like, it's so difficult to talk about because this movie just became the world record holder for pre-ticket sales in hours. In less than 6 hours, it did that. That's never happened before. I don't know how to use that as a precedent, but I feel like the two things that could possibly stop this movie from making $2 billion are if by some abomination of God it turns out to be a bad movie that people just don't like, and so it makes a whole like $1 billion in opening weeks and then drops off, or because the one thing that Avatar really had going for it, aside from the 3D and just the people talking about it, is that there really wasn't any competition. Like, for a couple of weeks, there were no other big movies that could possibly challenge that one that would get people who wanted, like, giant action blockbusters to go see. Infinity War doesn't have that. Deadpool 2 is coming out a couple of weeks after this, or maybe even...
So is Solo.
Solo is a few weeks before, or like a week before. Rampage... people seem kinda excited about that movie. It's difficult to tell. But yeah, like...
It's The Rock, and people always show up to see his movies.
Yes, but it's also a video game movie. And to be fair, I don't know how many people know that, but I'm hedging my bets on how well that one does. I think Infinity War is gonna be number one for a long time. I think it's entirely possible that Deadpool 2 comes out and it opens at number 2. I think that's the kind of situation we might be looking at. But I think it's equally possible that Deadpool 2 comes out and it does maybe like number 1 for a weekend, and then those two are like neck and neck for a while.
Well, Deadpool is rated R, but I got a feeling it's going to rip out a pretty significant chunk of Infinity War's take.
You're right, Deadpool 2 is rated R, and the marketing for it hasn't been like spectacular. I mean, like, it's Deadpool marketing, so people have enjoyed it, but I don't get the sense that I got coming into the first Deadpool that people are like, oh god, I have to see this movie. I've never seen anything like this before. I get a real vibe of like, this is more of the same. If you really love Deadpool, you'll go see this one. And I don't know if there are as many people outside of like comic book superhero fan circles who were really that enamored with it. Like, I know everyone liked it, but I don't know if there are people who liked it enough to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna see more Deadpool at the expense of Infinity War. Like, you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I have plenty of friends who aren't as diehard into comic book movies as me, who have seen Deadpool and really like it, and they're legitimately really excited about seeing the sequel. Like, yeah, for sure, I'll definitely go see that. But I don't. If it comes down to a choice between that and Infinity War, I don't know. I think people would bite the bullet and just see both.
Yeah, I'm thinking that too. People are just gonna see both.
Yeah.
It's not that thing of like you have to necessarily pick which one to go see and only see that one. You could just pay to see Infinity War. Like, wait until Deadpool comes out, go see Infinity War, and then as soon as you leave that theater, go see Deadpool. Do a double feature.
Yeah.
I'm just really, really curious as to what Deadpool's opening weekend looks like.
Me too.
It's possible that that movie makes like more than enough money to be considered a success, but still opens at number 2. Like the fact that that is a possibility is really fascinating to me.
Yeah, I think it's almost a foregone conclusion that this movie at least beats the first Avengers and will be Marvel's highest grossing film. Since it does have movies like Rampage, Solo, and Deadpool 2 nipping at its box office, like the next few weeks after its initial release, I don't think that it can possibly beat Avatar. Maybe Titanic, maybe.
Yeah.
But
And
as far as where I'm standing, box office wise, I think at the end of its run, it'll make more than any of the other MCU movies. Everyone loves to talk about opening weekend. With opening weekend, I think it will definitely surpass all the other MCU movies. By how much, I'm not sure. I mean, with Black Panther, it outgrossed Civil War by a pretty fair amount. Civil War, I mean, I think 170 something opening weekend, and Black Panther made over 200.
Yeah.
So, I think Infinity War will definitely exceed that. By how much, I'm not sure, but I'm excited to see.
Yeah.
Especially if, like, the opposite extreme is, of course, that this movie comes out and, like, by some miracle, it's the best review to these movies. Like, even people who don't usually like MCU movies say it's good. That guarantees you even more people who might not have seen it just because they're not into these movies. Like, I don't know. I'm kind of perversely scared and excited to see, like, what the first couple of weeks of this movie looks like in terms of reception.
Yeah, and we have to remember Ultron, basically. When the reviews came out, they weren't as good, and people kind of used it as, no, we're not going to...
That's actually kind of interesting to me about Ultron, because Ultron is one of those movies that did not age particularly well with a lot of fans. Like, I know there's a big section of the fans that just thinks that's an outright horrible movie, but critical reviews at the time of that movie's release were really, really nice to it.
Yeah.
Like, I remember a lot of, like, professional critics saying, like, it's better than the first movie. It's a really, really well-written movie.
Yeah.
And it, ironically, like, the less critical fans that got more critical with that movie over time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's mostly fans that take issue with that movie. You look at the reviews and like from actual professional critics, and yeah, they're definitely a lot more positive, especially when it first came out.
Yeah, they're not as good as the first movie. I know it's because it's like almost got perfect rating, but they're still good. But for some reason, the fans took that as that makes it a bad movie, which I find that.
Fans just had problems with a lot of decisions made in those movies, which, ironically, some of those decisions are being carried over into this one, so we will see if this movie turns people around on aspects of previous movies that maybe they didn't care much for.
Yeah.
To close this out, there are I can only think of really two movies that I was even nearly as excited about as I am with this movie. I've never been more excited for a movie in my entire life. I love this franchise. Growing up as a kid reading comics, I never thought that we would live in a world like this where we'd be getting a movie with Doctor Strange and Spider-Man on screen talking to each other. Rocket Raccoon is in a scene with Captain America. I mean, it's amazing the world we live in, and I love it so much.
Yeah.
But going back to when I was a kid, Spider-Man was the very first movie I ever saw in a theater, and I loved it. That shaped my childhood. Nick, your review of it is great. I adore that movie, And when
yeah.
I saw the trailer for the second one, I was beyond excited. Beyond excited. That, like, with him fighting Doc Ock and swinging around and everything like that, seeing the trailer for that movie, I was super excited for that as well. Like, one of my top most anticipated movies at the time. And then Marvel made a deal with Sony to use Spider-Man.
Yes, boy.
I was the happiest kid in the whole world when I heard that news, and Civil War became one of my most anticipated movies of all time. Just to not only the amazing conflict that we were going to get with Iron Man and Captain America, but for Marvel to be able to introduce their version of Spider-Man and do him justice. That was beyond exciting to me. So really, those two movies, Spider-Man 2 and Civil War, and now we have Infinity War, and it is as far at the top as you can possibly go for me. I've never been more excited about a film. All these characters that I have loved and been on this incredible ride with them throughout the past decade. Words can't express how excited I am to see this movie.
It's like, it's still so difficult to, like, square in my mind that this is kind of like the conclusion of a decade of storytelling.
Yep.
And, oh man, you know what? The one thing that, like, is not in any of the marketing that could possibly make this movie, like, even better than I'm assuming it's gonna be, and it's what I always say it is, but references to the TV shows. Please, just give me one. One! That's all I need. One reference to Coulson, or one reference to the Defenders. Just something. I just need one.
Is Jessica Jones walking by in the background or something? Just something. Just to come.
Sure, I'll take it. Because now the guys, now Jeff Loeb is like teasing like a conclusion to do the Avengers know about Coulson or not, and it's like you can't just tell me that when this movie's about to come out. You can't do that.
I really hope so. I kind of grew up. I didn't grow up with the comics, but I did grow up with these movies and fall in love with them and everything. So it's like, finally we're here. We're finally to the end of it all. And just want to squeal and cry. And I can't wait. I can't wait. Is it April yet? Is it?
What about you, Nick? Final thoughts? Closing thoughts?
I don't know. Like, I think it's the most sickest act of God that could possibly happen is that I die before I get to see this movie.
No! You can't. You can't. Don't think like that. Don't think like that.
We discuss this constantly. We're like, just how messed up would it be if after all this, one of us couldn't live to see this film? And like, I need it to happen now.
Don't do it. Nick, I want you to be like in a bubble.
Yes. Like in a hamster bubble type thing.
Yeah.
My friends are really annoyed with me because that's a joke I constantly make almost every other day. I'm okay with dying as long as I die after April 27th. So also, I can see Avengers 3 before I die.
But here's the problem, guys.
Testament to how exciting this movie is and how much we're looking forward to it. My mom is genuinely willing to sit through the 31-hour AMC marathon.
Oh my god.
Genuinely considering that.
Oh my god. You guys would be dead by the end.
Yeah, probably.
You wouldn't be able to enjoy the last. You wouldn't be able to enjoy Avengers, the last one. Yeah, no.
I mean, I'm going to rewatch all those movies in preparation for Infinity War anyway.
Yeah, ditto.
Yeah, but not at once.
No, not all in one sitting. Especially where like I'm not at my house and I can't pause the movie to use the bathroom or anything.
Yeah. Just enjoy Infinity Wars by itself. Don't be crazy. Please don't be crazy.
And then, oh god, once we see it, living in a world post this movie is going to be bizarre. But that is a conversation for another time. I think this was mighty productive.
Yep.
All right, guys, this was a lot of fun. This has been Malik Myers, signing off, and Nick,
Bye.
Bye.
and my good friend Lucy.
Bye. Thank you.
All right, guys.